had this crazy idea because I keep drawing things and it always seems to make more sense to me and to everybody when I draw. I can explain it better and people seem to be able to understand it better when I draw things out. So my frameworks with my students have been super popular. I mean, super duper popular because just a lot of people say, wow, it's never made any sense to me before. Now it finally makes sense. And I think that's because people are every bit as visual as they are audible or kinesthetic. And when you learn in the way I'm going to teach you, kinesthetic's kind of touchy-feely and using your hands. But when we draw something out, you're seeing me do it, you're hearing me unpack it, and if you're really smart, you're following along with me with your own pen and pencil and paper. And so I encourage you, make sure you have a notepad and something to write with, and make sure you have some space. Because I've got, I think I've got like 9 or 10 different frameworks that I've just been racking my brain about the last week or so. And I want to get all these things out there because I think it's going to be fun and exciting. I think it's a different way to learn. It's a different way to teach. A couple of you accused me or pointed out that I was being very, what's the word, almost mysterious about this event. What is this event going to be? You didn't really say what it is. No, I didn't because so if you're not muted out, I don't start. Well, I'm gonna keep you guys on mute. It'd be good. And yeah, a little mysterious because I think you're in for a treat when you see what it actually winds up being. So with all that being said, if you haven't figured it out, I am Tom Zeeb with Traction Real Estate Mentors and Traction Real Estate Investors Association.
No one cares.
People nationwide, guys know Jeffrey, I think it's you keeps popping off mute. Stay on
I
mute.
didn't know I was unmuted. My bad.
All right, cool. Stay on mute. Now we're good. I'll get you guys off for questions at the end, but I want to get through everything as humanly possible in the, I don't know what time this is going to take. I promise not to keep you all that long, but I also want to give you an enormous amount of awesome knowledge. So let's jump right in. Grab any old piece of paper. I'm going to jump in just some of my blank drawing paper. And this is Come Framework with Me, which I don't know if you look at that image and think about that name, you might be able to figure out where my inspiration for this was. If you do, you can pop in the chat and then maybe I'll answer that at the end of the evening. But meanwhile, let's get right into some drawing. So there are a couple things when we think about our business, where we want it to be at, how we want it to be. This is the way I look at it. Let's say, let's see. I don't want it right in red. Let me find some black ink. There we go, black ink. And let's thicken that marker up a little bit. You can say your business can be here's the way I view it. I think on a very simple kind of graph, we could have a business that produces big money. So let's see, it gets a little more greenish. There we go. You could have big money on one side of the spectrum. I suppose that would mean that the other side of the spectrum, we would have small money. I'm assuming most of you would rather have big money than small money. Also, if we consider the time impact, there are things that kind of a low amount of time. It's one type of business. And there are other types of business that take a high amount of time. So what I want you to think about is your situation currently. Where would you plot yourself on this graph? I'm guessing maybe you have a job. And a job, that's kind of high time, isn't it, right? A job takes up a lot of time. And let's say it's not a great job, so it's lower pay. Then your job might put you here, right? On the other hand, maybe you have a job, so it's still 40 hours a week, which is 2,080 hours in a year. Think about that for a minute. But let's say you're well compensated. You've got a good job. You've got a high-paid job. You've got great benefits. Fine, maybe you're making a bigger money, but it's still taking up a lot of your time. So maybe your job is up there. I want you to put a dot on your chart right now for where you personally are actually at. Do that. You can label it job, you can label it me, or you can label it now, whatever it happens to be. Now what I want to see you do is put a star in the quadrant that you actually want to be in? Like, where are we moving to? What do you want to have happen? Why are you getting involved in real estate investing? What's the goal for your life? I'm assuming it's probably to have more money, so you're moving up this way. At the same time, you're trying to reduce the time that you're spending on things, right? So that would put us out here. And what's our time frame on that? If that's our goal, label it goal. Put the star where your goal is. I'm guessing you're probably in the upper left-hand quadrant. I'd be surprised if you're not, but think about that. So is it we want to make bigger money with less time? That is our goal. Because I think people get this messed up sometimes. Yeah, well, more money, more money, more money, but more money takes more time. That may not be exactly the lifestyle that you are after. So that is something to think about. Now, how would I transpose that into thinking about this business even more? I would have it look something like this. What if you start off in the business and you're literally starting? You have a startup business. That's the foundation of where we're at. One level up from that, you start to get into survival, right? You've proven the concept, you've started up, but you've got to survive in business, got to survive on your own. There's things that are going to happen. And you're usually aiming to have a degree of stability. So you want to get your business stable after you've got it started up and after you feel like you're through the survival, right? You're a few deals in, you're usually looking for some stability because that's going to bring you to success, which we're all happy to get to. But success isn't really the end of the road, is it? There's usually more. I want more. What else is going to be? What's next? What happens next? That's usually when people look to grow the business, to do more. You look to scale. You're aiming to scale up that business. That still usually doesn't totally fulfill people. More is great, but then you start to think, more to what end? I mean, what am I really after? And that's when people start thinking a little bit differently. They start thinking more about the mark you leave, the impact you have, the significance. The significance that you make in the world, on life, on the people around you, all of that. What does that happen to be? So yeah, this is going to be your levels of business. Now, where are you at right now? Circle it. Circle the level that you're at. I mean, maybe you're in survival, or maybe you're already at success. Maybe you're at significance. That's awesome. I think someone's drawing on my screen. That's all right. Think about where it is on yours and draw that in. What I want to encourage you to think about is when things change. There are 2 points in this diagram where you are going to, let's say, hit a wall. And that's first point is going to be here. And the second point is going to be here. It's at both of these times that you're going to hit a wall. It's this weird thing. You've probably heard this saying before, what got you here won't get you there. That tends to be what happens. Those first couple phases, you go start up in survival, you tend to hit a wall before you can get your business over that wall, over that ledge, up to a level of stability and start to achieve success. Then you're going to get frustrated again because you hit another wall. As you try to bust through that wall, you need different tools, different mindset, different techniques to start to scale and achieve significance. That's really kind of important. So if we break down the different types, like what's your life like at each of these times? I would say in the startup, a lot of people are just kind of dealing with their spare time. It's part-time business. You're just thinking through it slowly as you go and spending your spare time on it. Because maybe you're still holding down the day job. You got other things to do. That's fine. That happens. As you get into survival, I would argue your business starts to take on more of a part-time role. Like you're seriously dedicated to it and blocking out the right amount of time so you can handle it on a part-time basis. So maybe you still have the full-time job. You're still juggling the family, juggling everything else, but you're treating this as if it's a part-time job. There's some degree of service. Now, when you get through that first, sorry guys, I'm trying to figure out where my other unmute is. I don't have Carolina here today to mute. Let's see. Let me see if I can find it quick. Usually jumps the person right to the top. If not, nah, it doesn't. That's all right. All right. So what we are aiming for, I can get this out of my way now. Sorry, you can't see what I'm doing, but I am trying to move my pictures of you guys over to the side. Awesome. So you go spare time, part-time. When you get more stable, you're starting to treat it as a full-time job. In fact, it may become your full-time job because it's generated enough income for you. You've probably at least matched what your take-home was from your main.
I'm Tom.
Hang on a second, guys. Please stay muted. I'm going to try to go with 0 interruptions now. So I don't know if how successful I'll be at that. I can't seem to control the mutes on here. You're going full time because you've recognized, what was I saying on this? You've recognized kind of what's changed for you and where you're at. I know I lost the thought, but I'll bring it back. When you get to success, there's a temptation to start to go overtime. It becomes all consuming. That's the interesting thing about your success. It becomes all consuming. Suddenly you're going, oh, is this the business I really signed up for? Where's that lifestyle that I wanted to have? Because you find yourself maybe working as much as you were before. That's because you messed something up further down, it's a very common problem for people to have. I see it with a lot of students because they wind up over focused on the business, which reminds me of what I wanted to say. As you start off, most people at the beginning are looking to match their salary at their job because you can survive on that. But here's the interesting thing: you're not actually.
Tom, I have a question.
Nope, no questions, guys. Don't. If you guys don't hold the question, I've said it multiple times. If you don't hold the questions, I'll just permanently put you on mute or knock you off for now. No questions till the end. All right. So we'll be in good shape. I'll answer everything at the end. I'll stay as long as we need. But right now, let's let this roll out so there's no interruptions. Otherwise, I want to follow in everyone else's stream of consciousness, and it's more confusing to everybody else. So again, with this thought, I can't seem to quite get out. You're not aiming to match your salary at the beginning. You're actually aiming to match your take-home pay, which is your after-tax. It's what you make after tax. So if you're paid 60 grand a year, that's not what you're getting. You're probably only walking home with 35, 40,000 out of it. That's what you're matching at first. Then once you match that, I find most people want to match what their previous gross pay was. And then I don't know what it is. All my students always go, well, then I want to double. So you tend to match your take home, match your gross, and then double what you're making. That's a common way you hit it. But the problem is you can feel like you are overtime. Now, when we can get you past that next wall and get you up the scale, that's when I'd argue you wind up in money time. That's the money time because things are flowing and they're flowing nicely, which leaves us to push up to significance where you've got your business working for you without you actually working in it that much. You've probably got most of it outsourced. You've got virtual assistants in the place. You've got a team in the place so that you're just kind of reviewing things and making them happen. That's when you finally graduate up to full on free time. So you're going to start spare time, work your way up into free time. So if you think about what's happening at these various points, I would say this first part of the wall, before you hit it, you're hunting. You're in hunt mode, right? You want to get out there, you got to find it, you got to make the deals happen. Then you'll get into a mode where you are building. You go into build mode. You want to build that business, build it up, make it happen. And then finally, you wind up in flow. You get into a flow state where things are just starting to happen and it's making it move for you. What are some of the dollar amounts that we would expect to be here? Now, these dollar amounts might vary slightly for you based on where you are and where you're at. But generally at the beginning, I find most people, you want to start with ending at 10K. Right? You're going to start off like trying to get that first deal, knock on that. Then it starts to go up after that. Guys, give me a second because I don't know if these are intentionally silly noises or just generally ridiculousness. So let me see where it is. And I'll have it jump it up to the front. Like I said, guys, I'm not afraid to knock people off. Stay muted, stay quiet. You don't like it, you don't need to be here. That's the way it works. All right. Now, 10K is where we are starting to head. Generally aiming then to get up to.
Oh my God, Tom, you're so hot.
Okay, guys, this is kind of hilarious. So let's see if I can figure out who it is. If not,
Sticking in my.
anyone catch who it is? Keeps popping off of mute. Let's see.
Yeah, Tom, it's the person who's named right now.
I don't think so.
They keep changing their name to names of
Other
other
people's
participants.
names? Oh, I see that. And somehow it's doubled up like the camera's pointing at them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm a magician. Oh,
I see that. I caught it.
oh, I was so.
I think I nailed the right one. So he picked on, let's see. Let me see. Oh, let's put in some offensive, illegal, or abusive and submit. All right. So one of these days we'll talk about managing a troll. I usually find them to be very emotionally damaged people, and they seem to spew a lot of their own. I mean, I'm serious. There's a serious psychology behind this, because it ties in a lot of what you deal with in negotiation. You'll deal with sellers like that. So maybe it's not. Look, I'll make an example out of whoever it was. But they often project their own inadequacies, their own dislike of themselves. They will project it onto others. And if you think that's not going to happen when you're dealing with potential motivated sellers who are probably a little bit angry at their situation, right? They've fallen behind on payments, they're in foreclosure, somebody close to them has died. They will often project that anger onto you. It usually trolls are very damaged people that project as much as anything else. But I think we nailed the problem and got a lesson out of it as well. Now, what do you think, gang? Shall we move on? All right, good work. And sorry, Roselle, that image. Luckily, I noticed that one of your image had a mic off. That's a pretty smart move, actually. So this is the thing when everyone's been using Zoom nonstop for a few years. People have figured out how to trick it. The camera was literally aimed at a box of a random person and changing the match to the name. And hardy har, but we won in the end, so that's good. My guess is that person's going to show up again under a different name, and we'll have to stop again and deal with that again. So always fun. All right. So what were we saying? always fun with the semi-public. All right. Now, money values. I'm trying to place a rough money value on this chart, right? You're kind of starting up to get to 10 grand. You want to hit 20 grand, maybe 25 grand. We're going to get up to 50K. Then we're going to get up to, I think you reach really good success when you're bringing in 100K. That six-figure mark is pretty, that's a pretty tipping point for a lot of people. Hey, we hit six figures. I like to bring my students up to 250 in my main program. And then when you hit that significance level, quite honestly, you're up to $5,000 plus, and you can keep going. There's no limit to where significance can bring you. That's up to you and what you're focused on. So that's what I'm up to on this. And that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. I want you to identify where you're at. And again, circle where you think you are at currently. Where is it that you fit into this at the moment? Because obviously you're rising and we want to get you in and rise, but I want you to know where you are on this pyramid shaped ladder and then make it happen. So the thing is, as we start to grow, things are kind of like, it's kind of like an iceberg. Let's see, how would I draw an iceberg? Now, you know, the thing with, oh, good, Carolina came in. She missed all the fun. We had, come on over. We had a troll online that kept saying, "Oh, Tom, you're so hot. Oh, Tom, this," and then was making farting noises before that. And very conveniently aimed his camera at Rosalba's screen and her, that way he was, and changed his name to her, so I couldn't figure out who it was. But we didn't quite get outsmarted, so that's good. Anyway, so but now you're here. I can have you swat down trolls if you jump on.
See, that's what you
I make a call. See, that's down. All right. Anyway, we're continuing on. And then I made a lesson about trolls. I think the guy did us a favor. All right. So we have an iceberg. This is my really kind of crappy drawing of an iceberg. Now, an iceberg, as you well know, where's most of an iceberg? Most of the iceberg is sitting below the waterline. Right? Isn't that what got the Titanic? There's something below the waterline. Now, I'm going to make my waterline a little bit deeper. There we go. Because now I have room to draw up here. What I find in a lot of iceberginess is there's obviously the part of the iceberg that's above the waterline, the parts you can see, but since the bulk of it is below the waterline, that's an interesting scenario. What specifically I'm after is, what if we talk about the, what's the situation out there? What's the situation out there in an industry, let's say the real estate training industry, which I'm happy and proud to be in, although I am admittedly also distressed and disturbed by a lot of what I've seen happen out there. The situation tends to be that you can have lots of training options, and there's also, tell me if I'm wrong, tons of information available online. There's tons of info online. I mean, an absurd amount of information available online. So kind of at this top of, I'm looking at training programs. These are the ones that are sitting, hope if I could draw clearly. There's a lot of training programs that are just kind of sitting out there above the water, but I don't think that's where you get to go as deep. Because I think the deeper we go into the business, the bigger impact we have. That's where the really strong impact comes from, is by getting below the water. I want to say that there's probably two bits to this iceberg, the part above the water and then the real base of it. That impact, when we can get to a business you love, business you love. Wouldn't that be nice? Have a business you absolutely love that gives you total freedom. I mean, that's what we got at the top of this previous one. When we got significance and free time, we have total flow, but we have total freedom. That's what we're after. That's the thing. But how do we get there? How do we transition from that above the surface situation that a lot of programs, a lot of people are just kind of, that's all they see. But if you remember that 80, 90% of that iceberg is below the surface, how do we get to go a little bit deeper? Because sometimes on the way down, you can get into a little bit of trouble as well. You might feel like you're on a treadmill. Anyone feel that way? Like, oh, wow, it's Groundhog Day all over again. You just keep doing the same darn thing again and again and again, because maybe your business gets some random hits, which is one reason we're going to be talking marketing deeply in a minute. You get some random hits as you go, and maybe you have intermittent success. But it just never feels like you've really gotten down to the level you want to be at. So if you really think about what I've done here, I've taken the peak of that pyramid and inverted it to be the bottom. What we're after, that peak of that pyramid, that significance, but I'm inverting it and turning it into the base of the iceberg so that we can understand that there's a difference here. So, I mean, what does deep impact mean to you? What does this part mean to you? I want you to think about that. When you go deep, like, what's the meaning? What does this mean to you? What I do down here is I show people my overall total traction model. This is how we break the business down so you can figure out exactly where it is that you need to focus on to improve. You're trying to move up the scale, there's probably something wrong. We can identify where something wrong is for you by figuring out what the pieces of it are. So the way I do this is with my total traction model. Now, the goal is literally to get you to a beautiful place called total traction. Total traction is total freedom. I want to get you to having total freedom in your life and in your business. Total freedom from your job, total freedom from things you don't like to do, total freedom from debt, right? Total freedom. That is what we're after. To get you there, you have to master 3 categories in this business. The first one is you quite simply need to learn how to find deals. That's marketing, all right? I'm going to dig deep into marketing at this training as well right now, right? We're going to dig deep into marketing. Next, once you're getting leads coming in, you've got to learn how to take a lukewarm lead and turn it into a red hot deal. So you got to learn how to make deals. Then you learn how to get paid. So you're going to find the deal, make the deal, and get paid. That way you can get down to what total freedom is. Now, what's pretty awesome is that you get some other groovy benefits that come along the way. When you learn to build a marketing machine, you get your marketing going. You've got mailings going out. You've got driving for deals occurring. You've got letters. You've got postcards. You've got phone calls. You've got networking. You've got networking with the trade. You're building the marketing end of your business. Well, you don't want to shut that down. You build a well-oiled machine and you keep it running, because then that's going to produce an inbound flow. So one of the big benefits I see is flow. That inbound flow. You inbound lead flow, and the more lead flow you have, that leads to more deal flow. The more deal flow you have, that leads to more cash flow. So getting into a state of flow is very important to us, right? Now, as you start to make deals, the number one thing you're trying to do in negotiation is get somebody to agree with you, to say yes, to sell you their property, to say yes to your offer. So when you get good at taking people from saying no to saying yes to you, think about what that does to you personally. You get very confident. So confidence is a great benefit of learning this system as well. You get confidence. Now, as it comes around and you learn to get paid, and you finally cash your check, you made your money from your deal. And then again and again and again, how does that funnel back into marketing? Well, a little bit out of each and every deal needs to be reinvested back into your business in the form of more marketing. That way your business can achieve growth. Otherwise, you're only going to do this one time. It's great to have done a deal, but that's not going to set you free. That's certainly not going to get you to total freedom. It would just be a one-time thing. So we've got to we got to reinvest in the business and have growth. That's how we're going to get this business to work. Now, how exactly does that happen? Well, each of these categories breaks down further. And I want to show you what these breakdowns are. That way you know where you need to focus in on and what is going to make the most sense for you to focus on. And then I'm going to start to drill down onto more of these categories this evening at this event. So the first part to good marketing is you've got to understand the market. The market is your who. These are the motivated sellers. But what specifically is wrong with the motivated sellers? Who are they? Are they in divorce? Are they tired landlords? Have they inherited a property? Are they in foreclosure, right? These are all different markets that we can be after. That's the who. Once we know who we're after, then part two is to determine the message. The message is what we say to these people. So if the market's the who, the message is the what. What specifically do we say to each of these people? And what I really want to get correct here is the message to market match. How do you match what you say to a particular type of person? So think of some of those examples I gave before. You don't send the same message to somebody in divorce that you send to a tired landlord. And you don't send the tired landlord message to somebody that inherited a property in probate. And you don't send the probate message to somebody that's in foreclosure, because it doesn't match. It doesn't speak to them. That's what we're after. Then this third category of marketing, I would argue, and I have more frameworks for this evening, this third category is kind of the marketing mystery. I call it multiply. You have to multiply your effort. It's not enough to say something one time. It's not enough to do one round of mailings one time. If you did one round of mailings and then it didn't work, that's not because it doesn't work. It just means that round doesn't work. The number one problem I see with most real estate investors is they try it one time and then they give up, they chicken out, they get scared. They're afraid of spending any more money on another round of mailings, another round of postcards, another round of whatever. But you're never going to get anywhere if you back off when you're, well, how's that book put it? 3 feet from gold. So there's a repetition cycle that's needed. Think of any TV commercial or radio jingle that you can sing along with. It's not because you've heard it one time. It's because you've heard it many, many, many times. That's what's important. Now, when people start to contact you, it's time to negotiate with them. The first part of negotiation is what I call pinpoint. You pinpoint a problem. What specifically is their issue. You want to talk to them about that so that they start telling you what their problem is. And as you're pinpointing what their issue is, what their problem is, why they need to sell, well, then you know how to solve that problem. And you solve that problem by packaging up a solution. You put together a package that would solve their problems. It solves their problem at the price that works for you. Now, what's really important, one of the reasons why in the marketing area, we're focused on motivated sellers, so sellers that have a problem, is because solving the problem is their number one most important thing. And since that's their number one most important thing, we can solve that and still get our price being our number one most important thing. We're investors. So we're not arguing about the same thing, so we can truly have a win-win negotiation. Otherwise, if price is their number one most important thing and it's our number one most important thing, then we're fighting. There's going to be a winner and a loser, and that doesn't work. So find somebody that their problem is more important to them by the price than the price. That is what we're after. So you package up a solution that works. Of course, they still don't automatically say yes. You have to learn how to persuade them. You have to persuade them to say yes, which is what my negotiation training is all about. I've done different webinars on that. We'll touch a little bit on negotiation tonight, but I'm going to focus more on marketing. But that art and science of persuasion, it's kind of science masquerading as an art. A lot of people think it's the art of talking. It's actually more the scientific principles behind it. And by, I don't mean some of this, totally nutty science. I'm talking, it's just basic human psychology and how people act. Kind of like I was telling you about the troll there. You know the kind of damaged individual you're dealing with. And so you start to understand how that person thinks, you know how they're going to react, and therefore it helps you in that negotiation with them. And your motivated sellers have problems. They may or may not be projecting them onto you, but they will talk about their problems if you keep asking the right questions and peeling off layers of that onion till you get down to the core. So remember, the goal of a good negotiation when you're persuading them is to get them to say yes to you. You want them saying yes. So they say yes, then, since this is a real estate business, we have no choice. We have to put the property under contract. And that contract has to be in writing. No ifs, ands, or buts. You can't, you can have a handshake and an oral agreement, but when you show up at the title company, the settlement company, they're going to say, yeah, that's great. Why don't you write it down? Because you have to write it down. There has to be a contract in writing. But that's still not exactly the end of the game, because what winds up happening along the way, but there are conflicts. Now, if my students have heard me say it once, they've heard me say it a million times, there will be drama early or there will be drama late, but there will absolutely always be drama in each and every deal. I can make a strong argument that we actually get paid for dealing with the drama being the conflict. Something will go wrong, something will start to derail, and it's our job to maintain control. We have to maintain control over it. So our contracts help us control the motivated seller. If we're assigning the contract as a wholesaler, then our assignment contract helps us control the ultimate end buyer. If I'm rehabbing it, then I have a contract with my contractors. If I'm landlording it, putting renters in there, then my lease is my contract that helps me control them. But I also need to control my emotions, my anxieties, my fears. So I've got to get all of that together. When you get this done, this is when you have a business you can go through again and again and again. It's down to these 9 categories. I call them accelerators. These are the 9 accelerators to your business. And what I want you to do is look at each of these 9 and determine which ones you're doing great, which ones you need some improvement on, or which ones you're not doing at all, or you just stink at. And let's work on those, focus on those. Let's get you the help you need in each of those categories so that you can be moving ahead properly. That way we move you up the ranks of this pyramid, get you from startup up to significance. It comes from learning these 9 categories and focusing in on them. So it's in these different 9 categories, these 9 accelerators, that I'm going to start to dig deep into now. Let's specifically talk marketing. If you notice, the fine circle is at the bottom and it's holding the other 2 up. Because if we don't hold the other 2 up, nothing happens. You don't have a business unless you have the marketing. So here's how I view marketing. I think marketing done right can be hands-off. Hands-off marketing is a good thing. That means you don't have to be doing it. Isn't that kind of cool? That's what we're after. On the other hand, what's the opposite of hands-off? Well, obviously it's hands-on. your marketing might be hands-on. I don't like that as much. Just like your marketing could be consistent, or your marketing could be inconsistent. Great, inconsistent. Maybe you have inconsistent marketing. Kind of 4 different quadrants there, aren't there? Where would you put yours? Let's put a dot. Tell me where yours is. And I'm guessing that some of you might be in a category where you're doing your marketing consistently, but it's hands-on, right? So, I mean, all right, kudos to you, right? You're doing something, but you don't quite have it worked out yet. You're down in here. I would call this the remind category. You constantly need to be reminded to do your work. One of the issues here is that you're never fully relaxed. That's kind of an issue because you always have to be reminded what's going on. Another kind of big problem with being in the remind category when you're hands-on and consistent is over time, don't think it can't happen to you. You might get bored. And if not bored, you might get burnt out of what you're doing. That's a very real possibility. You get bored or burnt out. Maybe you feel that way in your job currently. Well, it can happen in your business too. So we have to be careful if we're hands-on and being consistent with what we're doing. Now, what if you go, I'm hands-on in my marketing, but I'm very inconsistent about it. I don't do it on a regular basis. Well, in that case, I think marketing is on your mind, which is kind of disturbing, right? You always have, I would argue, a sense of guilt because you're not, you know, you need to be doing it. You know, you need to be more consistent, but you haven't. You haven't invested in the systems. You don't follow your own calendar. For whatever reason, you're not committed to do it consistently. So you get a little bit guilty. That also, though, causes your business to be inconsistent. I guess you get insufficient growth. That's a big problem. And you might feel stalled out. That's a problem. Okay. What happens if you just don't do anything? I mean, let's say you're inconsistent and hands off, literally doing nothing. All right. How many people you might be guilty of that? I'm thinking about marketing. Someday I'm going to do some marketing, but you're not actually doing anything. So you're hands off and you're not doing anything very inconsistently. Then I think you wind up in a state of never mind because you're just not paying any attention to your marketing. Well, that's just flat out a recipe for failure. I guess if you're not going to pay any attention to your business or your marketing, then I don't know, how would we put this? Let's say McDonald's is hiring. Well, maybe. I don't know. They seem to be getting rid of people and putting in those video menus. So, you know, hurry up and get the job when you can. Or better off, let's move to having a hands-off and consistent angle in our marketing. That will bring you to a state of peace of mind. Peace of mind is a much happier place to be. I think when you have peace of mind, you can get that growth we talked about. You can be confident. And that is what gets you to total freedom. Hands off and consistent. So you have a system working for you in marketing, and that is consistent. So no matter where you are currently, if you're here, we got to get you there. If you're down here, we got to get you there. And if you're here, we got to get you there also. All roads, no matter where you put, no matter which quadrant you chose, let's move into that upper right. Let's get you to the point where that is what is working for you. All right? That's what we're aiming for. That's what we're after by focusing in on your marketing. So which of those 3 elements aren't working? Do you not understand the market? Do you not have the message right? Are you not matching the market to the message? And are you not multiplying? Are you not repeating the process, repeating your mailings, repeating your advertisements, repeating your calls, right? We got to have a constant sense of a repetition. That way we can start to get some progression in our lead flow. So let's call this one the lead flow progression. Here's how I see it. I love triangles. All right. Let's say your marketing, your lead flow. Remember, we're trying to get you to a point of flow. You bring in that lead flow so we can get deal flow so we can get cash flow. If you're not doing much, you might feel blocked. There is no flow. It's blocked. All right. That's kind of the base. We got to get off of that. Once it starts moving, maybe you get a little bit, but your marketing isn't capturing everything. I think we're a little bit leaky. That's problematic. Maybe then you bring it up to a trickle. Then I'm going to get rid of one of these. There we go. And let me get rid of two of these. I put too many lines in, I think. Boom. This is what we're really after here. I want to get you into a flood of leads coming your way, a flood of motivated sellers, because that's when we're going to get into a state of flow. So we're aiming for flow. That's where we're aiming for that benefit. So how exactly does that work? Well, we've got to move up this ladder. We've got to move up this pyramid. I know that almost seems like something somebody would complain about as a urologist. I'm blocked, I'm leaky, I'm trickling, but we want flow. That's what we're after. Carolyn is now rolling her eyes at me. So that's fine. So let's see. If what we are after is we want to avoid this section and we want to get up into this section. Does that make sense? Right? We're trying to get out of block, leaky, trickle. Focus on marking to move it up so we are getting into a flow state, because that is what we are after. But here's the problem. When you start marketing, you're going to notice something about the leads that are coming in. So let me categorize them for you. Let's call this one the lead categories. What are the lead categories? Well, I view it like this. Starts off, you might get cold leads coming in. I don't like cold leads. You know why? Cold leads wear you out. Cold leads take up a lot of time, a lot of energy. Take up the same amount of time and energy as other leads, but they're so cold that it's hard to get them to move anywhere. And I think if you spend too much time on very cold leads at the beginning, you'll burn yourself out of the business. Like that's a one-way ticket to trouble. I would much rather see you spend time on the warm leads and then obviously the hot leads. But here's the thing. How many leads do you think, come in hot? You get some hot here and there, right? Every now and then you're going to get some hot leads. Every now and then the phone's going to ring and it's good to go right as it is. But that's more of a fluke. It is going to happen to you, but you can't rely on it. That's not going to happen consistently. And I want to have you avoid these cold leads because I gotta say it's going to burn you out. I want you focusing instead on these warm leads. I like the warm leads because what can we do with a warm lead? We can start negotiating with them. And when we negotiate with them, we turn up the temperature. We take that lukewarm lead and turn it into a red hot deal. So if you think about it from a marketing perspective, one of the reasons we spend time trying to find situations, markets that produce a motivated seller is because then they're less likely to be cold and they're more likely to be warm. In fact, what you'll find is that this is the biggest section of what you'll find. And when you find these people, you can start to negotiate with them. You negotiate these leads. You start talking to them. Now, just because you negotiate with somebody, do they automatically say yes? Does every warm lead turn hot? No, it doesn't. And certainly not right away. A lot of times what winds up happening is you have to schedule these babies for follow-up. Schedule for follow-up. Absolutely. Think about it. If you don't schedule for follow-up, you're losing out on the opportunity to potentially take a lukewarm lead and make it into a red hot deal. Not every negotiation is going to end after a couple of paragraphs on the phone, or 10 minutes of talk time. Sometimes you got to give them a little bit of space. Sometimes you got to walk away a little bit, let them think, come back. Sometimes you got to judge it by the conversation you had with the person and go, that person wasn't quite ready to go. It wasn't quite right. But they didn't totally say no, but they didn't say yes either. So give them a little bit of time to wait. Maybe call them back in a week or a month and a half or 2 months even, depending on what temperature, how warm you thought the lead was. But when you do that, you're going to get more success from these types of leads. So what do I want you to do? On the cold side, I want you to ignore. Ignore the very cold leads. They're not doing you any particular good. These leads in the middle, I want you to nurture them. Nurture those warm leads, including walking away for a little bit if you have to, and then following up. Oh, wait a minute. Following up is a form of multiplication. It's a form of repetition. So just like you're repeating the process in marketing, you're also repeating, following up, and multiplying the impact you have when you're negotiating. And because I think when you get that, when you get, obviously with a hot lead, the solution is simple. The hot lead, you take action now. It's a C, a CTION. Take action now. Hot lead, obviously, give them a contract, move it right along. But most of the time, you're going to wind up that giant piece in the middle. That is the nurture portion of what we are after. Okay. Yikes, Tom. So we're talking negotiation. How do I talk to a motivated seller? Now, I would argue you've gotten a ton of value out of tonight already, but I debated teaching this tonight because I usually save it for the students in my program, but I want to share this with you now because I think it's that critical. I think you're going to see what it takes to really kind of flip the switch on your marketing. So let's discuss talking to motivated sellers. Let's discuss talking to motivated sellers. You can tell I love this kind of this axis thing is it's on my mind and it's working out well. When I'm talking to motivated sellers, it's kind of 4 things I'm looking at. I'm always starting off talking to a motivated seller as I'm uncovering, I'm pinpointing what their problem is. I want to be talking about their fears. What are they afraid of, right? What's wrong? Because if they have things like maybe they're afraid of going broke. Maybe they're afraid of going broke. That could be a problem. Maybe they're afraid of being stuck with a property they don't want anymore. Maybe a property they're inheriting and don't want. Maybe their own property that they've fallen apart on. They're stuck in. That's a problem. They might be afraid of having no freedom because they now feel trapped by a house or trapped by their family situation or their life situation or their job situation or whatever it happens to be that's trapping them in. And they might be afraid of bankruptcy. When you can't get out from under a house and you have a problem and it's taking you under, think about the fear that's causing you. So I want to, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but I want to talk to people about their fears and I want to put salt into those wounds. I want to agitate and irritate their fears. And I don't do that in a nasty way. When people say, oh, it was so nasty. No. I'm doing it out of love. Because if I don't do it, someone else will. And if I don't do it, they might wind up with someone who doesn't care about them as much, isn't as good at business as I am. It doesn't take care of them the same way I will. Now, I've preached that a lot to my students. I've been super proud this last year. A couple of them told me like that they've been dealing with people that are starting to go mentally incompetent and lose their mind, and how they've helped that person by dealing with their family, sometimes connecting them to family that hasn't been connected with for a very long time. I get proud of that kind of thing because that's exactly it. You only do that when you actually talk to the person about what's wrong. So we're talking about their fears first and foremost. The second thing then you're talking to them about are their frustrations. Oh, what are they frustrated by? What's bugging them? What's irritating them? I mean, what is their frustration? Is it uh are they are they worried? Right? What do they what do they have? What do they have wrong? Are they um are they frustrated by a lack of funds? So they have a lack of money. Maybe they are frustrated by family. You've inherited a property. Now you got to deal with all your siblings. You know, you've grown up and you've managed to avoid your siblings. Now you got to deal with them because mom and dad left your house, right? It happened. It happens a lot. You're gonna come across that a lot. So there could be family troubles. There could be other worries. Just like, what are their general worries? Dig down into those frustrations. That's the bad part, right? The fears and frustrations. Well, now we got to flip it over. And what I want to talk about, because we're taking them down into the cesspool of the problems, but we're not leaving them there. We are now vaulting them out of that by discussing their wants and discussing their aspirations. So we go from fears and frustrations to their wants and aspirations. Well, what is it that they want? I mean, maybe they're looking for financial peace, money peace, right? Ooh, they finally got some money peace. That's great. Maybe they're looking to no longer have a burden. That property or that situation is a burden to them. They want to not have that burden. That's really important to people. Maybe they're worried about the taxes. So maybe they don't want to have the tax. Maybe they don't want to have the liability. These are things that bother a seller. Therefore, these are the desires that they are after. It's kind of, you're almost inverting what's happening on the left. You're inverting it to what's happening on the right. What kind of aspirations do they want? Maybe they want a new life. They want to move to a different place. They want to move to a different home. They want to move away from memories. Not just bad memories. Some people want to move away from good memories because they become painful after somebody passes, if it's a probate scenario. That can happen a lot of times too. So it's a new life. Don't you try to prejudge how they feel about it. Just let them tell you how they feel about it and ask them what specifically are they after? What are they aspiring to? Maybe they want to be in a new town. Maybe their big aspiration is to have no mortgage. Wow, I can sell that property off that I've owned for 40 years and it's gone up in value and I can cash out and go somewhere cheaper and buy a property for less and owe nothing on it. That would be wonderful. That would be a great retirement or a great life for them. So generally what you'll find is that there are things that people are moving towards. They want to be in this direction. They want to be towards that, and therefore they want to be away from their fears and frustrations, right? You're moving towards your wants and aspirations, away from your fears and frustrations. And if we were to label the north-south axis on this, I would say these are things they want immediately. And these are more imagined problems. Or even an aspiration, if you think about it. It's not just an imagined problem, it's an imagined future for what they're after. So think about that. What's happening immediately and now? What's happening in the future? What do they want to move towards? What do they want to move away from, right? Because moving towards what you want is a good thing and away from that which you don't want. So yeah, the right side is the inversion of what's happening on the left side. You need to take them through this process. If you're wondering, what do I talk about when I'm pinpointing a problem? This is what you talk about. You're pinpointing the problem as you're transitioning them into packaging up the solution that would work for them. That is what we are after. Now, what's the plan for this? Well, let's see here. I would do the plan this way. 4 categories. You've got, what are our 4 categories? Let's say you've got to know why. They've got to understand why. So let's look at the previous wants, aspirations, fears, and frustrations, and look at that model, the one we just did, and that determines their why. So we know their why. Then we could think about what What's the solution for them? Is it selling the house? That's probably what it is for us. And you might get someone where that's not the right solution. So refer them to the right kind of person that can help them. If not, if selling the house is the right answer, then they need to work with you, right? And that's when you present them with the contract. So the why, I want you to see the model above. The what, I want to be selling the house, because then when it's selling the house, we can start to move into the how do we make this happen? Well, okay, how we make it happen is sell to me, or in your case, you, right? Sell to you, sell to me. And then you're going to provide them with a contract. Provide a contract, which is obviously with your offer. Provide a contract and your offer. You make them an offer, you provide a contract to go with it. That's how they are going to make it happen. Then that would leave the question of now. When is now finally going to be the time, right? What does now make sense? Now is the next step. Now's the next step. Then when they're ready to go, you tell them, sign here. Sign here. And specifically, what are action steps? Give them the action steps. Review the contract, sign it. I'm going to put you in contact with the title company. They're going to call you. Make sure you talk to them, give them the information, all these action steps of what happens next. Don't assume anything. Don't assume people know what to do. The average person sells a house like twice in their life. They're not going to remember. Even if it was fairly recent, they were walked through the process. They're not going to remember. So you need to walk them through the process this time. All right. So you're going to walk them through the process and make that happen. So in terms of order, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Why, what, how, now. That is what we're after. That brings them through to those action steps. How do we start to tie this together? Like, what's the time frame to make this work for you? Well, let's draw this. I call this the 4 futures. 4 futures. Here we are today, and here we are in, let's say, 3 years. 3 years from now. So I want to think about where you want to be. So let's see. It's 2024. Next year is 2025. The year after that is 2026. Time flies. Man, time flies. Okay, so which direction are we heading? We're going from the left to the right, right? We're going into the future. We have absolutely no choice. We are heading in that direction because that's the way life works. Time waits for no man, no woman. No matter what, we are moving ahead into the future. We cannot control that. We can, however, control what type of future we have. I think we can control what happens in the future, and I see 4 potentials. I think if we focus on what we want and we pay attention, following the systems I've laid out tonight, I think we can get up to an ideal future. I don't know, what's an ideal future? Let's say, well, I told you, if we go back to that initial, this initial model here, let's see. Let's get you up to that second wall. Let's get you to success. So we're at $100,000. So if I aim to get you to $100,000 as an ideal future, I think that's a pretty groovy future. So we're going to add $100,000 to make an ideal future. Now, is there a guarantee? No, there's no guarantee. You might not get that far. Maybe you don't get your ideal future. Maybe your future just winds up being okay. You have progress and it's okay. Let's say we do half as good as that. What if we add 50,000 to our bottom line? That's still good. It's a good future. It's just not ideal. It's not as good as it could have been. Okay. But we said there's no guarantees. So that also means there's no guarantee things get better. Could potentially things get worse? Well, absolutely, right? What if you don't focus on what you're doing, you don't pay attention, and you wind up with poor performance in the future? Let's say the opposite happens. What if you subtract $50,000 from your bottom line? That's kind of interesting. And could it get worse? Yeah, it can as well. What if you wind up with an utter and complete disaster? Oops. I can't spell. Disaster. I still missed the A in there, didn't I? Disaster. I can't spell. All right. Let's say you're bankrupt out. You get nothing. I don't like it. You don't like it. But we have to admit it's a possibility. So it kind of gives us 4 paths to follow. From where we are today, we might get up to our ideal future. Or from where we are today, we might get up to that okay future. But if we don't pay attention and things don't go as well as we want, we might get poor performance in the future, or we could go totally broken bankrupt and have that utter and complete disastrous future. These are the 4 options and kind of 4 trajectories there. So let's label your lines. We got line 1, line 2, line 3, and line 4. If I had to name them, I would call these upper lines. I would call this implementation. That's implementation, right? When you're moving up. On the other hand, if you're not paying any attention to what you're doing, I would call this drift. Do nothing, don't focus on it, just kind of go along to get along. You could be drifting downwards. That's the danger. So it's March, right? March 2024. That puts us right about there. What line do you want to be on? What future do you want to have? You want to be on line 1, you want to be on line 2, line 3, or line 4? Now, I really don't think anyone chose 3 or 4 actively. And I'm guessing I can mind read through Zoom. I'm pretty sure everyone circled 1. If you circle the number of the line you want to be on line number 1. All right, fine, I get it. But draw a box around the line of the number that you are actually on right now. What line are you actually on? And if your circle and your box are around different numbers, which I'm guessing they are, well, then something's got to change. And what is that something? I'll change my colors on this here. Hang on a second. So you circled 1, but you're actually on 2, or maybe you're on 3. You're on a line, maybe you're on 2.5, right? But you're somewhere there. Just estimate it out to where you think you are. Now, so we're here, March 2024. All of you said you want to be up on line number 1. That's here. So what's the gap that we need to cross? That's it. It's actually not that big of a gap today to get up onto the line to move to where we want to be in a few years. What happens if you wait? Because I'm imagining most of you have been trying at this business for longer than a few minutes. You've been trying at it for longer than the night. And I'm also kind of guessing most of you have probably been trying for at least a year. Am I wrong? Right? You've been thinking about things for a year. Well, what if another year goes by? Now it's March 2025. I think we all can easily imagine how fast time goes by. It's March 2025, but you're still going to want what you want, which is to be up on the ideal future, the 100 grand a year extra. Well, what happened to our gap now? Our gap got bigger. And what if a whole nother year goes by after that? It winds up being March 2026, but you still want what you want. You want to be up on that line number 1. Well, what happened to our gap now? The gap got huge. In fact, I would argue that's an insurmountable gap. I don't think you can make that leap anymore. So the time to take action and do something to actually make your business happen and achieve the future you want is when? It's now. It's got to be now. In fact, to put an even sharper point on it, you will never actually be closer to that first line, to the green line. You're never closer to it than you are right now, right at this moment. Because every day, every week, every month, every year that goes by, the gap's getting wider and wider and wider. And then you wonder why it's not happening. Because not only is the gap getting wider and wider, the difficulty level of making that jump is getting wider and wider and wider. It's getting harder and harder and harder until it's actually not even possible anymore. That's the danger of what we're after. Now, here's one thing I know. This ideal future of the 100 grand in 3 years, following my systems and method that I teach in my Total Traction program, I get this moved forward. We get this to happen not in 3 years, but in 1 year, which effectively makes your trajectory that. straight up to making it happen in 1 year, in 12 months, adding 100 grand to your bottom line, to your profit, 100 grand in profit, not top line, 100 grand in bottom line profits. 1 year, not more than that. That is what we're after. That's what happens when you focus on implementation and you avoid drift. We don't want to drift. We focus on a business, focus on it in the right way, the appropriate way, and implement. What are we implementing? We'll go back a few frameworks. We're implementing those 9 categories. Specifically, we're fixing the ones that you're failing at, we're improving the ones that you're struggling with, and we're maintaining the ones that you're doing excellent at. That is what we're after. That's how we implement for growth. That's how we implement for success. That's how we move you up from startup to survival, to stability, to success, and then get you to scale and significance. In fact, while we're on this page, go back to this framework that we drew in here. Here's how I see it. My total traction program takes you from start and starts to move you up. Okay? Takes you from the start line and moves you up. That's total traction. I have an elite program that kicks in kind of when you're around that first wall and moves you up. That's traction elite. And then when you really want to get to significance and you understand what that means and know that you need the kind of personal one-on-one attention to get there, that's what my one-on-one program is for. Is getting in that high zone of significance. So where did you circle you were at on this? Because if you're down in this zone, get into total traction. Let's move you up. If you're kind of floating above this first wall, let's get you into my elite program and move you up. And if you're at that phase where your business is going great, but you're looking to have that impact on the world and leave a mark, like really change things and leave a legacy, let's get you into my one-on-one program. That's what we're after with these. And my biggest question with these is, well, what's the cost of inaction? I've told you what the value and the benefit of implementing and focusing on it and moving your way up and joining one of my programs. But what's the cost of inaction? What's it cost to stay where you are? Look through what we've done. Do you stay stuck in the job? Is that problematic? We want to pay attention to that. Or do we start to finally move you ahead? What I'm after in the total traction program, let me get to the right Zoom part here. I want you guys to take a look at this link that I am popping into the chat. I'd be happy to have you in my total traction program and start training you. So total traction literally gets you from where you are to where you want to be. And one of the things I'm going to be asking you when you join is, where are you on here? What did you circle? And what are we aiming to move towards? And notice that we're not skipping steps. You don't get to jump from startup to significance. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. You're going to go startup, survival, stable, but my program is designed so that my program and I can be with you through each step of that process and move you up. And when you hit that wall, and you will, and you get frustrated, we're there to show you how to retool, how to rethink, so you can keep that movement moving upwards. Because the things that got you there aren't going to get you here, right? They're not things that got you from the lower levels up are not going to get you higher. We have to pivot so that you can keep moving up to hit the next wall. Then we pivot again. We change up the tools. We change up the techniques. We grow and mature your business. So yeah, your business, kind of like human life, right? There's a childhood. There's an adolescence where it grows a lot, but also has some annoying things that happen to it. And then you come into adulthood and you grow further beyond that. That's effectively what those walls are. It happens in life, and it's going to happen in your business as well. So that is what we're after. That price on that link is a special price. That's not the regular price. You can go to the website and you can go full price if you want. You're on the webinar now. You're welcome to that special price. So with that being said, let me take some questions. And of course, if anyone else wants to make farting noises or call me names, feel free. You can tell I'm kind of basically immune to it. So it's all good. So who has some questions? I know I've plowed through an enormous amount of, I think it's an enormous amount of content. You're also welcome to pop into the chat. I would love some comments in the chat. What did you think of this as a training? Is this something I should do again? Do you like this style of training? I mean, if you like this breakdown, you're going to love the program, because I basically teach by drawing and thinking things through in a visual fashion so that you understand. So I would love any comments, positive or negative, into the chat. And then if you have any specific questions, you are welcome to unmute and ask me the questions. Someone posted in the chat. I don't have my chat window up, but let me see. Let's see here. I can read them. You are also welcome to, let's see. In your first triangle. Dave is asking, can you show the first triangle again? I think I did. I pop back to that one. That's my first triangle, right, David? So good. Marcelo is saying thank you. Awesome. Let's see. Replay. Ivy, does the Elite program provide a detailed guidance on how to manage a mailing marketing system that is effective and organized? Yes. What we also get into quite a bit there, Ivy, is making sure we get a lot of it. Remember, how do I phrase it here? I want to make sure your marketing is as hands-off as possible. The only way to make it hands-off is to have other people do it. It's either automated by a machine, and some things can be computer done, but some of it can't be. I don't want you doing it, because it's hands-on, but your hands are off of it. We'll get you set up with virtual assistants and teach you how to build a virtual assistant team. It's something Caroline and I have done a lot of over the years. We've learned a lot of tips and tricks for how do you develop a virtual assistant team, which is generally it's quite inexpensive help, but that they're inexpensive, not cheap, right? Cheap would be a statement of the quality. They're inexpensive, doesn't cost much, but you get really high quality people from building the right kind of virtual assistant team. So when I say hands off, it's your hands off, and we'll hire hands to do that for you. David, well done, excellent, thoughtful, brilliant. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. David Jolene saying, appreciate how you calmly leverage the troll to be a useful teaching moment. Difficult people can be a challenge to be graceful with. Yeah, Jolene, I know. It's unfortunately I get trolls now and then. The nature of teaching people online or even live rooms. Live rooms is hilarious. You have someone troll you. But I think the lesson I taught you about it is important, because you're going to deal with motivated sellers that sometimes that are a little troll-like. And you need to handle that with grace and charm. So hopefully, yeah, it was a living live example of how to make that happen. Good, and give a heart to it. Awesome. Win, amazing as always, Tom. Your frameworks are easy to understand, and your total traction program is transformational. Thanks. Well, you're very welcome. Yeah, happy to have you in it. It's awesome. Yvette, Tom, if I have a property under contract, should I get a deposit from the cash buyer before showing the house and give the address? If you have the property under contract, you get a deposit from the cash. Yeah, so Yvette, I know you're in the program as well. One of the things that we'll talk about is my exact, and I draw it out like this. There's an exact protocol for how you deal with the buyer. And I only let the buyer go see the property once they've qualified to me, and then I provide two things that I hold back. So I will talk about that exactly in the program. In fact, that's coming up on our very next implementation session. So if people wonder how it works, my training, the Total Traction program, I'm with you for a year. How am I with you? Well, every month I do an implementation session online using Zoom, which, surprise, surprise, is pretty much exactly like we're doing tonight. I'm talking, you're seeing me, we're going back and forth, I'm able to answer questions, and I go through a training where I draw it out so you get to see it happen. So one of the trainings we're going to do on an upcoming implementation session, because remember, implementation is the key. Otherwise, you're drifting away. Drifting towards trouble. Instead, we want to implement towards success. That's why I do implementation sessions with you every month. I do a different training and we move it around. So the next training that's coming up is going to be on buyers and buyer control. And specifically those two pieces of information I hold back to make sure they're qualified and not wasting my time. Because gosh, there's buyers that are trolls too. And they'll waste your time and mess around with your deal. So we're going to cover that as well. So that's one of the elements to my program. The other element, or one of the other elements, is also monthly Q&A calls. These are group question and answer calls. So yeah, we're on Zoom every month and that's visual. But then we do a separate time every month that's just Q&A on the telephone on a conference call. I have all my students on. I give everybody one-on-one attention in a group setting. So I talk to each one of you one by one. What questions do you have? And I answer them. But everyone else gets the benefit of hearing the question and the answer. And as you can imagine, other people have the same kinds of questions as you have. And it's cool to hear people that are further up the chain than you are and further down the chain than you are. And you'll get students in all walks, right? Every level of that triangle. And so when you get to hear what's happening with them, that's very powerful to you because it helps you move ahead because you figure out where you're at. So that's another 12 times a year we'll be together. So 12 times a year on Zoom, 12 times a year on the phone. That's 24 times a year we're going to be together because I don't want to leave you alone. Remember when I talked about the iceberg? And I was saying at the top, there's all these training programs out there, and I'm a little bit disappointed with what's happened in the industry. I think that's because most of the programs stay above the waterline. Because honestly, here, little inside baseball for you. I think they stay above the waterline because that's really easy to deliver. You don't have to get deep. You don't have to think. And most people will be, oh, so happy and satisfied that they learned something, but they're coughing up an ungodly amount of money for these programs. I'm sorry, $35, $45, $55, $60,000 for a program, I think is too much. Okay, I have people come to my Saturdays and think that they learn more there than they learned in some $60,000 program. I believe it. I've heard it enough times. I know it's true, but I do it differently because I have a different mission in life. Many of you, I've told the story about one of my very first students, Mikey, and I look at what's happened to him in the last, I don't know, 18 years, 19 years. 20 years now. It's 2024. It might be almost 20 years. 20 years. I look at what's happened to the kid. It's crazy. I look at what he's done to his town and turn that around. And my mission, that's deeply personal to me, is I want to meet more Mikeys. I want to turn people into that level of success story that you're rebuilding your town, that you're changing the lives of people, motivated sellers you're dealing with, that you get. He is the ear of the governor now and can help us with legislation in that state. I think that's fantastic. Now, I know that's corny. I totally admit it, but yeah, that's my mission. My mission in life is to make more people like Mikey, because I think that's how, personally, that's how I have impact all across America. We change towns around one investor at a time. That's totally corny. It's totally cheesy, but that's how I feel about it. Okay, so that's that. So yeah, my problem is I think a lot of programs just stay above the waterline. That's literally the tip of the iceberg. I want to drill down deep. And I do that without having to, soak it to you. I'm not asking you to expand your credit card limits and buy into a $60,000 program. Now, come on. I mean, I think I knocked the price down. It's normally a $6,000 program. I knocked the price down to $2,400. Hit that link, join in for $2,400. I mean, think about what that works out to. Think about what that works out to a day. It's probably what a couple bucks, a couple glasses of Starbucks, and it'll be better. You'll get a lot more out of it than that. All right, let me jump back to the question. Yeah, go for it.
Give them the actual description,
Yeah.
like what we have on our website. Can I send them the link to
Yeah.
total so they can see
That's,
everything?
I think all the descriptions at the top of the page. Everything that's included, if you hit that link I put in there, which let me,
It just takes you directly to.
yeah, and I think there's descriptions at the top, correct? Let's see here. I think if you hit that, let me double check to be sure. At the top is a full description of everything included. I'm going to send you all my contracts. I'm going to send you 85 different marketing ideas. You don't need to use all of them, but I want you, I don't want you to be able to say, I don't know what to do. Well, there's 85 different what's with the letter samples and the postcard samples, everything that's kind of plug and play, ready to go. It's a whole kit, my home study kit. You've got the calls, you've got the Zooms. I also invite you literally to my house. I do twice a year a bonus in-person event. I call it the Total Traction Intensive. It's in Sarasota, Florida, where we work in small mastermind groups and really get to grow and expand our business. And then I put you on a boat so we can go around the harbor on the Saturday night, and then I bring you to my house on the water, and we have a cocktail party. It's catered, food and drink, all on me. So that's a bonus session as well. And I've got a 90-day program to get you up and moving. That way you know where to jump in, what videos to watch, what trainings to go through, what part to read, what do you need to practice. That way you're better informed and ready for the calls and for the Zooms. Let me see what else I have in the chat here. Mark's asking what days and times are dedicated to training meetings. Ah, interesting. So Mark, I don't lock in a specific day of the month, because if I do it like every second Monday or every third Thursday, someone's gonna go, oh, I can't make that. So I move it around throughout the month. That way, you know, the date and time. That way, if you ever aren't able to attend, it's not going to happen consistently. And if you cannot attend the Zoom live, don't worry about it. It's recorded. So you'll be able to go over the recording as many times as you want because all the Zooms are being recorded. All the Q&A calls on the telephone are also audio recorded, and you'll have access to that afterwards as well. So if you can't make a call live, you'll be able to listen to the recording. And if you can't make the call live, then you're allowed to email in your question. I'll read the question on the call and answer it on the call, so you can grab the answer off the recording and be able to go over it again and again and again. So basically, you're not going to miss out on any of the training because you have access to the recordings. Let's see. Tim, I've been watching with no volume while attending a meeting with the apartment banker. This will be available for replay. Tim, you're in the program, so you can reach out to me and we'll take care of that. Jake, what is the biggest reason you have seen over the years that people in the program drift versus succeed at implementing? Excellent question. What causes drift? Sometimes it's lack of belief that it actually happens, but more like it's when you do, and it's why I'm telling you right off the bat. The number one reason is people do one round of marketing and then they chicken out. Oh, it didn't work. Oh, that one round didn't work. I didn't get a call. I didn't make $1 million by Tuesday. And they get afraid of doing another round of mailings. But I'm telling you, it's that multiplication factor, that repetition of your mailings that makes it work. You have to stay committed to it. So one of the things I deal with you directly on at the beginning of the program is let's get your budget mapped out. If you've got more money than time, well, then I'll direct you towards which marketing pieces you can spend on, but don't take much time. Or vice versa. Let's say you have more time than money. I'm going to direct you to those appropriate marketing pieces. I give you 85 different techniques. So some take a lot of time, but don't cost much. Some cost more and don't take a lot of time. And there's everything in between. So we work on building a balanced marketing plan. That way you can implement it consistently and multiple times over time. That's the number one reason people kind of crap out. They lose faith because it didn't work the first time. That's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like going to a casino, putting everything down and say, oh, that didn't work. Well, if you didn't stick around for the next round, you got to wait for the next hand. Now we're looking for those overall averages. So I think that's a big issue. Yvette, thank you so much, Tom. Excellent training as usual. You are very welcome, Yvette. Carolina popped out the detailed description, but remember that link has the full price as well. Tim, I saw some triangles and graphs you covered last Saturday. Also saw some new material. Awesome. Yeah, Tim, like I say, you're in the program, so you have full access to everything. Roberto, I have a property under a lease to purchase contract. The developer wants this property. What would you do? Next door neighbor build a property for $2 million. The property 600,000. Honestly, Roberto, my preference, this is me personally, I'd wholesale it. I would assign my contract to that developer, and I would walk away a really happy cat with a lot of money, rather than try to do anything more on it. That's me. That's my personality. That's my preferred exit strategy. I do some rehabs. I do some landlording, but I love wholesaling. And I walk you through in my trainings, how do we figure out what works best for you? But honestly, I look at something like that, I'm going, just for heaven's sakes, cash out. Particularly if this is your first deal. Get the deal under your belt. Get that success under your belt. Cash out and move on, man. I think you'll be a happy camper with that as you go. Let's see. Jay sent me a direct message, so I'm not sure you want that read out loud, so we can answer that one afterwards as well. Anyone else with questions?
There's a few people that used to be students but need to reactivate total traction, so they can reach us
okay
directly. So
if you are a student of mine who has expired and you're no longer active in total traction, email me. Email Carolina. We'll get you hooked up with an annual pass, so you don't have to pay the full amount. We'll activate you into the annual pass. Email me, email Carolina, and we will hook you up. Let's see. Oh, Jay, all right, I think it's the same question popped into the, that's a good way of telling me it's an open question for anyone. Jay is saying, I have 3 properties, all pre-construction condos, each with negative cash flow, about $2,000 a month. Can you help me stop this? Depends what they're worth, Jay. There's probably a little bit more complicated question than right now. I would get out of them. If you're not happy losing that much a month, what are they worth? What would people buy them for right now? And if you're losing on them, can you walk away from your pre-construction? Can you walk away? And how much would you lose in that? These are all different questions that would come to mind for that. That's a very specific thing. That's something I would work with you on in the program for something at level of that specificness. I think it's a little bit beyond the scope of tonight, but those are my initial thoughts on what I would do. All right, anyone else with questions or comments? Carolyn, did you see anything else? All right, well, look at that. I wasn't sure how long this was going to be. I've got 26 past the hour, so that went, Roberta, you're welcome. He says, thank you. I say, you're welcome. Yeah, about an hour and a half. I wasn't sure. I said, my God, when I have all these frameworks, this could take hours, but luckily I tend to talk fast so I can get through things like that. All right, gang, so take a look at that special. Love to have you in the program. The next in-person Total Traction Intensive is coming up in Sarasota in early May. And then there'll be one later in the year as well. Those are no charge to attend when you're in the program. And it's totally, all your travel is totally tax deductible, whether you're driving, flying, your hotel, all that totally tax deductible. When you're here, I'm buying breakfast both days. The boat trip, the harbor cruise, and the dinner party and drinks at my house, that's all included. That's on me, not on you. And happy to have you guys there, and happy to see you each and every month on the Zoom implementation sessions as well. That way we're keeping you implemented. I space everything out roughly every 2 weeks. That way you can't disappear, right? You can't go hide in the hole somewhere, because we've got something coming up, and I use those deadlines because I know how people are. If you were a student like me, you're probably waiting till the deadline to work towards a deadline. Awesome. Nobody likes a deadline, but everyone responds to a deadline. So I make sure I have those deadlines there. That way it keeps everybody on pace. If you're wondering what the trainings are like, they're just like this. This is what I do. I teach it pretty much this exact same way. I draw on the screen, I talk, we answer the questions, we go through everything thoroughly. So love to have you guys there. Hit that link and we'll be in good shape. Jay is saying thank you. You are welcome. Rhonda saying thanks for the refresher. You are welcome. Ivy, Totally Traction, definitely worth the money. Thanks, Ivy. Glad you're enjoying it, since I know you're already in. Diane, Tom, thank you so much. Visuals are very helpful. I'm glad you liked them, so certainly worth me putting the time and effort in, and I know you guys like them like that. That's awesome. Vivian, thank you so much, Tom. You're very welcome, Vivian. Juan saying thank you as well. Again, saying you're welcome. So with that, I'm going to sign off on the video and the audio. I'll leave the chat open for a couple of minutes. That way Carolina can clean it out. Just make sure we've answered everything and go back through it. But we are in good shape. After that, you guys are free to go. Melissa says, thanks, Tom. Good to see you. Good to see you too, Melissa. And thanks to you guys that had your cameras on. It's awesome to see you that way. So, all right, with that being said, we'll wrap it up for a very special come framework with me. Oh, wait a minute. I said that earlier. Between the graphic and the term come framework with me, did anyone catch who I'm emulating on that? Maybe. I'll have to send it out by email, see if anyone gets it. I'll see if anyone gets it. Oh, wait a minute. No, I got a better idea. Hang on line just a sec. I think you'll like this. Let me I actually have my inspiration piece that I put together. Let me share the screen in a second. I don't see it. This is your last chance. Pop it into the chat before I reveal the answer. I want to see if anyone gets it. Bob Ross. Nope. Nope, it's not Bob Ross. So let's see. You guys are going to roll your eye. I'm expecting a big eye roll. Feel free to eye roll when you see this. There you go. What do you think? It gave my artists something to do. They liked kind of trying to make it like that. Maybe I don't look as groovy as, from the TWA plane, but that was where the idea for the come framework with me and the overall style of that logo came from. It's the old. So now you got me singing the song. Come fly with me. All right, gang. So with that being said, now you know the big secret. So that's it. Have fun. We'll wrap it up for Come Framework with me. Business strategizing like you've never seen before. It's Tom Zeeb with Traction Real Estate Mentors signing off.